And Tom Murphy to talk all things Arkansas. Tom, good morning. As always, appreciate you joining us. Kendal Briles, it's been a hot button topic as of late. If you're Arkansas, what is your pitch to keep your current offensive coordinator for moving on to Coral Gables? Is it just dollar signs, man?
Good morning, everybody. No, I mean, it's a combination of things. It's a lifestyle choice. I mean, there's a vast difference between living in Southern Florida, Miami-Dade area versus living in Arkansas. And, you know, showing him some appreciation with dollars is part of that too. And I've got to say, they did such a good job with the balance this year that you've got KJ Jefferson coming back, and the kid performed even beyond his expectations in some areas, completion percentage being one of them. And some new talent coming in at receiver, I would think that's a selling point too. That you know, we can take another stride forward with this offense. So I know until Miami hires somebody, this is going to keep going. And apparently, there are reports today he's still, you know, kind of in the running down there. So I know what I've been hearing from folks is that it's more likely he's going to stay. But until Miami hires somebody, this thing's probably going to still stay active.
Tom, and we'll wait and see the timeline and kind of the end of what happens. But let's say he decides, you know what, it'd be better for me and my family if I went down to Coral Gables. If you're Sam Pittman, if you're Hunter Yurachek, and it's more Sam Pittman than anything, would you be confident enough to trust Dowell Loggins to keep the offense going and just go ahead and hire him as your offensive coordinator?
Well, certainly when Dowell Loggins was hired, with his track record of coordinating offenses in the NFL and working, and, you know, and improving the play of guys like Jay Cutler and some other folks over the years, he would have to be in the running. I mean, Sam is thinking steps ahead on some of his hires. I mean, he did the same thing with Cody Kennedy as tight ends coach. If I'm ever going to need an O-line guy, you know, he'll be right here. And it's the same with Dowell Loggins. But you wouldn't want to close the door and just say he's the only guy we're going to consider. You'd want to hear. I think you would want to look at the field, so to speak. Yeah. So I think that's where they would stand.
You should do no worse than. I mean, you've got this guy in house.
Absolutely.
You should do no worse than. So, and I don't know. You know, we talk about these long horizons, and maybe, you know, we're looking at a job, you know, in our lives, you look a little longer than 2 to 3 years. I was making the point earlier in the coaching world, I think the horizon ends, you know, particularly as an assistant coach. I think the view is a little different as a head coach. You know, 24, 36 months is about as far out as you can look. Now, in the immediate is KJ Jefferson. In the immediate is a returning offensive line. In the immediate is a very stable head coach in Sam Pittman as far as his stability with Arkansas. So how far out on the horizon, in your opinion, if you're an assistant coach, can you really factor in things? Particularly in a world with a transfer portal and all of these things, it is a very quick changing world, Tom.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think you have to look at it in layers. You have to look at the immediate next year, you know, and then maybe you do 3-year, 5-year, 10-year timelines. And in the coaching industry, it goes fast. And I do believe, I really believe that Kendal Briles was looking for a little stability when he came here. I mean, he cold called Sam Pittman. Yeah. And because the Florida State staff was, you know, Willie Taggart was done. So I think after he bounced around, he did the Florida Atlantic and back in Texas and then in Florida State, I think he was looking to, you know, get his kids into school for a few years and just provide a little normalcy. It's tough sometimes when you're bumping around. So I would hope that would also be an attractant for him and his family to stick on. I would hope that he stays here until he gets a head coaching opportunity.
Well, which is the better job? If you could be the offensive coordinator at Miami or the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, consider conferences, head coaches. Let's just say the money's equal. Which is the better? Which is the better job and the clearer path to being a head coach?
Well, the statistics Arkansas put up in a very rugged schedule last year were very impressive, and so that's a resume builder. If you put up the same exact stats at Miami last year, I don't think they shine as much just because of the strength of your opponent. So for a coach, you have to weigh all kind of things: lifestyle, how far does your dollar stretch in your area, what talent is there? Is De'Aaron King coming back again? He's still listed on their roster, and I don't know what his status is. So a lot of things play into it. What's it like working for that head coach? How comfortable are you in your town? And I think Kendal Briles is pretty comfortable here. And even though fans have given him some flack over the receiver passes and the double passes they run, which has not been successful, their base offense has done really well here.
Well, I don't know where Kendal Briles was physically yesterday, but I hope it wasn't Northwest Arkansas about 3 o'clock when the sleet was pouring down, because that's not a good case for Arkansas over Miami when it was sleeting to the point it covered the ground yesterday. So hopefully weather is not a big factor, because yesterday, compared to Miami, it wasn't best foot forward in Washington County.
Well, let me tell y'all, I lived on the coast of Alabama for 7 years, where it's the humidity and the heat in the summertime is just, it's like a blanket, and it's tough.
Yeah, it's never humid here.
And I like the changing of the seasons to me is a very admirable thing about the weather. And I love the falls here, and I love the spring.
You get all four here, sometimes in the same day.
That's right. And so that would be preferable to me over living down in the Hurricane Alley area.
True.
Tom, when you look at some of these moves that Sam Pittman has made with this staff, pulling in certain guys out of the portal, what else do they need to add right now? You just added a defensive end, a wide receiver, a cornerback. I mean, what else do you need to add, man?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing another big-time D end, D lineman. I mean, I do like talent that's coming back. There's some guys like Nichols and Carter and Williams and, Soley, guys that can help them next year for real. But, you got to make sure you've got some backup. I mean, Landon Jackson, will he pan out? You hope he does. But I would say D line is probably the one area the most. I mean, Cade Fortin, how will he work out at quarterback? We're not sure. I mean, it looks like the Razorbacks will have to wait into the season a little bit before Cade Renfro might be 100%. I'm not sure what his timeline will look like, but and then there's the question: does Malik Hornsby stay at quarterback, or does he take a shot at another position? So I don't know. Being bolstered at quarterback is never a bad thing.
Tom, I saw Mel Kiper's mock draft, and Treylon Burks was nowhere in the first round, and he wasn't even listed as a top 5 wide receiver. I know some Arkansas fans were kind of surprised by that. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that or not, but what are your thoughts on Treylon Burks potentially not being a first-round draft pick and not a top 5 wide receiver in this upcoming NFL draft?
Well, I think he's got a chance. Well, first of all, his highlight film says he is a top round pick. But I think he's got a chance in the combine and workouts to show how much he loves the game, what his fitness level is, and because when he's on, he's as fast as he needs to be. He makes incredible catches, and I do think that if you listen to all of Sam Pittman's words since he's been here on Treylon, it's what's his passion level for the game. How committed is he to doing all the workouts and stuff you need to do. Because at one stage, I remember him saying, you don't get in shape by hunting hogs. I mean, because, in the offseason, that's one of the things Treylon Burks does. Yeah. So I think that's the thing he's got to prove himself to GMs. How much do you love the game? How much you want him to work? And because we know his talent level on the field says first-round choice.
Yeah. And I don't know, the lineage and what comes out of Warren and just some of the background, I don't think that's a big factor, but you'd think that's still somewhat, just looking at his background in the system and where he's come up from, they dig into everything. I would just think because of the quality of the players that have come out of that same area, that might be a very small factor somewhere on the scale as well as you look at his background and kind of what he's done.
Well, absolutely. And I've talked to Coach Bo Hembry about the wide receiver factory that Warren has been. Yeah. And it's been going on since the early 2000s, by the way. I've talked to Jarius Wright about him. So at some point, I'm going to have a nice Treylon Burks feature. I need to talk to Treylon again. So maybe Pro Day. And, That's all plays into it, right? You know, what's your background, what's your love of the game, what's your speed, what's your agility, you know, what's your route running like, and being a team player. All those factor well into Treylon's hands.
Yeah. Let's talk basketball before you go. Arkansas's won 3 in a row. Since we last talked to you, they beat South Carolina at home pretty handily. Last night, A&M took on Kentucky. Didn't go well. They get A&M on kind of a rare Saturday night conference game at 7:30 at Bud Walton Arena. Second go-around with A&M, Thomas, a big game when you look at the league standings, kind of where Arkansas is at this point. You know, you've kind of worked your way right back into the mix, tied for 5th. This is a big game with all those teams kind of wadded up in the middle in the SEC standings.
It absolutely is, and it's a way to make your mark on, you know, we could beat a team that's playing well. By the way, I'm sure y'all saw Texas A&M's 3-point shooting last night. I think it wound up 1 for 22 or 1 for 21, so you cannot expect a repeat of that. I'm sure it will be better. They beat Arkansas. I think Arkansas actually might have beat them on the boards. I can't remember, but I think Arkansas is rebounding. No, Arkansas won the boards in that game. I think their rebounding has been a big deal. Their turnovers have been down in recent games. That has to keep up. But the fact that A&M played Kentucky so close last night when they shot so well, it just bodes that A&M's got a solid roster this year. So, you know, they had a chance in that game down there. And so I would suspect that playing at home, you'd want your offense to be a little smoother than it was against South Carolina. You'd want to make a few threes in this game, get the streak going again, and hopefully the Bud Walton crowd accounts for a few points in your favor as well.
You know, Arkansas is clearly a team that needs to play games in the 50s and 60s versus the 70s and 80s to have that success. I'm just looking at top 25 scores from last night, and so many of the games kind of fit that mold. Is this a fact that college basketball is returning to defense? Is offense off a little bit as a whole? Not just with Arkansas, but what are you seeing kind of globally with college basketball? Because it does seem like scoring is down a little bit this year.
It does feel that way. And
I don't know if that's factually true or statistically true, but it does feel that way. So
exactly. I just think that shooting, like premier shooting, is it's not as strong as it has been. And I think the refs don't want to blow their whistles all game, and there's a lot more contact going on. I mean, you watch when guys drive in, there's some kind of contact, lower body, upper body. Sometimes there's some muggings that don't get called, and I just don't think they want to impede the flow of the game any more than it already is. So a lot of banging you get away with, and I think that factors into it as well. But yeah, Arkansas does seem to have done a little bit better. They're not as an open court team as much as they had been, and I think if they can get to that where they're in the passing lanes more, get more run outs. I mean, that's where Devo Davis really started rising last year, and hasn't been such a part of the offense this year. That zone South Carolina threw up the other day, you could see they just weren't real comfortable in the way they were attacking that. And so I think that's, to me, is another step as we get closer to the postseason that Muss and his coaching staff are going to have to get them a little bit more comfortable how you attack the gaps and what you do against the zone. And basically, J.D. Notae drove down to the rim against the zone a few times and just powered in on them to get the offense going in the second half.
Yeah. Remember the phrase offensive initiated contact. So that'll serve you well when looking at some of those plays in the paint. Who creates it? Because I think we are seeing a lot of plays where the offense goes in and creates most of the contact with the defender, and those are being let go in a lot of cases when the defender's legal. So I think
that is happening. That is happening as well, and I see Jalen Williams rise as a big key. You know how he's helping facilitate on offense, and obviously being sometimes a closer on defense. And they've got a big roster, and hopefully things will continue to improve for them.
Tom, appreciate it, man. We'll do it on Monday. Hopefully get to talk about an Arkansas win against Texas A&M this Saturday.
Sounds good. Y'all have Great weekend.
BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile wagering to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's BLEAV. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.